He's such a big fan.
Jay Wizzle already in the chat. What is good? We're live, Brad. Brad, you asked me to hold this name for you so we could get a full-blown live reaction. So I got a name for you to start off this week's episode. Shout out to the listener in the comments who brought this to my attention. Sent me down like a 2, 3, 4 minute Wikipedia rabbit hole. Babe Laufenberg.
Babe Laufenberg, I got me. I don't have anything. I told you to save it for the live show because I thought I could pull it, but nah, I got
let me go one deeper for you. Was at Stanford under Bill Walsh, and a young quarterback by the name of John Elway came along and forced Laufenberg out. Laufenberg then transferred to Mizzou. From Mizzou, he transferred to Indiana, and at Indiana, he was honorable mention All Big Ten in his second year and 2-0 against Purdue.
So are we bringing this up because West Coast quarterback going to Indiana? Is that kind of the theme that you're trying to insinuate, or is this just a name that was thrown at you?
No, that was a name I saw. Sent me down a rabbit hole. 2-0 against Purdue, and yeah, no, I just felt like I had to bring it to these. Shout out to Babe Laufenberg. Just had to bring that to the attention of the national or the national audience, to our audience.
Yeah. No, we have a national audience. I got Chicago and LA to tap in.
Yeah, Chicago, LA, tap in. What's up?
We're not just an Eastern time zone pod. We are a Central time zone pod. We are a Pacific time zone pod. Mountain time to be determined. I don't think we get much action out there. But Jay Wizzle says, wow, the portal is ruining the game. Disagree. It's saving it, actually, especially basketball.
He's talking about Laufenberg transferring when Elway came in. That's what he's.
Oh, really?
Yes.
Disgusting. I was telling you, man, like, quarterbacks have been transferring for more than half a century. It's been going on a long time.
Yeah, but Brad, what I think you were alluding to was a massive recruiting weekend for Indiana that just passed. Saw 3 commits. They just kind of keep coming day after day after day. The staff doesn't slow down. I want to jump into the specifics of the weekend, but there were a couple things I wanted to cover before we got there. First of all, was an appearance by Buffton Prime on the tailgate. T-Cal and Hoosier Tailgate had a nice conversation about Indiana's defense. That was super cool. Go check that out. We're huge fans of T-Cal, so obviously, he's wearing Indiana stuff and claiming to be an Indiana fan. That's stuff we like to see. So that was a cool conversation. I don't know if you caught much of that, Brad.
I mean, he's just a good follow on Twitter. I mean, he's always posting clips of just the most, like, I saw him. He went a full day just covering these 2 Illinois State corners. I mean, if you want a guy that knows tape and understands ball, it's just a good follow. Jay Wizzle, I know you're in the chat. You're into that. Buffed T-Cal. Great follow on it on X, Twitter. What are we calling it?
I call it Twitter. He's
one of my favorite follows personally, to be honest, just because when he breaks down the film, I like it. I like those videos.
I called it Twitter for 2011 was when I first got on Twitter. So it was like I'm too deep. I feel like if you're coming into the game now, like it'll be X for the people coming up. Like the kids coming up won't understand what pre-NIL, pre-portal is right now. But like we know what college football looked like 10 years ago.
Yeah. It's still Twitter.
Yeah, exactly. The other major thing that happened this week, and this isn't just an Indiana story, this is a complete college sports story. Judge Wilkin approved the settlement that was being held up in the House, essentially okaying revenue share across the NCAA. I went to dive into the 76 pages. Shout out to Sam Elrick, I think his name is. He's a former, I think he's a Boise State law professor or something like that. He was the first one I saw tweet out the paperwork, but holy cow, Brad, like I don't know what your initial thoughts were when you saw it get approved, because I know this was coming, but like this is going to be a whole different era of college football or college sports in general.
So, you mentioned revenue sharing. I think the biggest thing from this is the idea of that there's going to be, pay for play directly from the school now. I think it's about a $20.5 million cap directly from the school. That's a huge game changer. We knew this type of change was going to happen eventually. And to already be at 20.5 mil salary cap is eyebrow raising for sure. it's definitely, allows the school to maintain their rosters. It's definitely going to help every Power 4 school 100%. They're I don't know how to say it, chomping at the bit about this new rule. This is definitely going to be a big separator from the big dogs and the little dogs. Like who's actually going to invest in this sport or not. It also still keeps the door open for NIL.
Well, that
I
was
think there's two separate entities now. NIL deals are still always going to be on the table. And, and now the school can, in addition to not just fundraising through an NIL collective, just pay directly up to 20.5 million across all sports, where they're saying about 90% of that is going to go to football and basketball naturally. And if you've been following this pod, you already know that through NIL, Indiana has at least 30 million allocated to both their football and basketball rosters. So an extra 20 million is huge for the school.
Well, here's the thing. It's the other major thing that came out of the decision was that Deloitte's going to be responsible for essentially green lighting any NIL deal above $600 worth of value. And then you have to start presenting those deals. I think the date was June 7th, but the portal opened the Monday before. But like there was a Bruce Feldman, or no, this was a Justin Williams article from the other day about what that's going to be. And the quote was from somebody saying, "There's no enforcing this. Fair market value, question mark. Fuck Deloitte. This is going to get even crazier."
Yeah.
So, I mean, like, that was kind of my hesitation as I went to go dive into the pages and read the decision instead of waiting for people to come out. And the conclusion I came to was like, by the time I finish reading this thing, like the rules are going to change. Every single line of this decision is going to be challenged. Like the revenue share, you're already seeing like the NCAA talk about problems with international athletes and what it's going to do for international visas. And it's like you're seeing schools like Ohio State already brought their collective in-house. So now the collective is a part of the university. They're talking about supercharging the fundraising they've already had to now like just push it right into NIL. The House decision was the first domino to fall, and it had to fall because you needed to know whether or not you were going to have rev share and what those roster caps could be. That's something Sig was alluding to when he talked about how many guys they could recruit in the class of 2026. But we're a long way from this being a final product. Like it's like this just started.
Yeah, it's a work in progress. It's just another domino to fall that was eventually going to happen. And like I said, just a wait and see game, but just only more good news for Indiana. I think another effect that we're starting to see is I'm hearing a lot of schools going into private equity. Penn State,
Yep.
UCLA, God knows they need it. They've been operating in the red for the past 10 years.
That's where I was going next.
Like this private equity thing like you said, it's only going to get crazier. I mean, when you think PE, I mean, just look at what the Dodgers did. They went into PE and look what they're doing to baseball right now. They said they're ruining the sport. They're the only ones kind of doing that. Everyone else is basically kind of a singular owner for the most part. They're a private equity firm, basically running a professional sports team. So getting that into college athletics is, I mean, it's going to get crazier. I think you're right. It's going to get
100%. Like
if people think that this is going to make things more, what do you call it, regulated? That's far from the case.
No, and it's funny to bring T-Cal back up again before jumping into your point about private equity is like he said something about like why would you post any of your deals to Deloitte? Like, yeah, you got a $200,000 deal. They're going to tell you is worth 60 grand. Like, what incentive do these players have to report these deals and do them like above the table in terms of like putting it up to get cleared? Like if you secured a bag of that level, like why would you let anybody tell you no? It's like Pawn Stars style, like tell you your deal isn't as good as you want it to be. I think that's going to cause major problems. And then, like you said, for PE, you look at a school like Iowa, they just hired a former NFL scout to kind of run their revenue share operations. And it's going to be interesting to see what Indiana does in that sense, because obviously we have highly capable coaches and administrators, but this is a whole different beast and it's going to require a position. You look at all of the schools that have been successful in the NIL era and they have specific GM roles and people responsible for allocating NIL and allocating where revenue share is. And I'm not saying that Indiana is behind in any regard, but I do think we will probably see the hiring of somebody significant in a front office-esque type role as we start to see some clarity. Yeah.
Putting it out there. Just putting it out there. I'll throw
This
my
is-
resume into the ring.
You're throwing your hat in the ring
Yeah,
for
I'll
this?
do it. Yeah, and John said in the chat, Sig has a plan. He's just waiting to green light it. So
Yep.
obviously everyone knew this was coming in some capacity. So from what it looks like, I've said it before, it looks like Indiana is kind of the gold standard in terms of how to allocate, money percentage wise. It's just all about, getting more money at the end of the day. That's how they're going to be successful. But, giving smaller stipends to freshmen, nothing crazy, going to make sure they're committed to the program more so than the NIL money itself. So obviously we're going to give them something, but not, the world. We're not getting them Bowman money or Bryce Underwood money. They're going to get, typical freshman stipends, just a typical package because, you don't know what we're seeing. And then really allocating the big money for retaining the best talent. Your Elijah Surratt's, your Omar Coopers, your D'Angelo Pons, your Amari Farrells, your Aiden Fishers, your Mikhail Kamaras. And then filling in the gaps with the rest to fill in your position of needs, your Fernando Mendoza's, your Roman Hemby's, your Tyler Morris's, your Gandys, your Hosea Wheelers, your who else we got? Your Stays, your
Jonathan Brady,
Zednikowski's, your Khalil Benson's, your Pat Coogan's of the world, filling in those gaps. And Terry Davis thinks this is bad for IU. Too early.
I go back and forth.
It is
too early to tell.
It's too early to tell, but I'm leaning good just because I know how much money the university has and how they're planning on investing heavily in
no,
football.
it's the opposite though. It's the opposite because
the
salary cap means essentially that everyone, quote unquote, what it should mean is everybody spends the same amount max. So if you give everybody a level playing field, it then falls on the coaching staff. So then it's like, we think Indiana kicks the shit out of every other staff in the country. So if anything, that part makes it good for Indiana. Now, if you're not regulating the back end NIL and it's just a fire hose, like we'll see. But like Brad said, it's way too early. I actually want to get to what NSPR 8 said in the chat.
Well, I'm gonna backpack that a little bit. Like you said, like if we were spending the most, everyone's paying the same amount of money, Indiana is in the favor there because our coaching staff's so good. Now, the reality is, I don't think everyone's going to be paying the same amount of money. Let's just put that out there. There's just no way that that's actually going to be regulated. I mean, we were talking, cash in McDonald's bags, money under the table, money being delivered by Georgia to Fred Taylor's house. That was happening for decades, and that's still
think about who, like, you're talking about this whatever to mid 2010s SEC. We've talked about ad nauseum that the guy leading the charge for taking Alabama to this place where everyone now knows them of was Curt Cignetti for the recruiting. So it's like, this is a guy who has a very good grasp of how to play by whatever rules. So I would be nervous if that guy wasn't driving the ship, but that guy's driving the ship. Like this era of SEC football we talk about with under the money or under the table payments and all, like Curt Cignetti was, if we want to like just say it, like he was at Alabama during that time. So if you want to say they were paying people under the table, you're saying Cignetti was. You get what I'm saying. So it's like I think we're in really good hands. The other, like, I want to get to this the point that NSPR 8 made. It said this is a bad thing for sports besides men's and women's basketball and football. All are on the chopping block across the country. U.S. Olympic Committee already coming out with concerns. And I actually have been talking about this specific thing a lot with my dad because I think it's crazy to think that you have a revenue drawing sport. Just take football, for example, and have to pay football players and like say like a swimmer, for example, in the same way or from the same pool. I think that's crazy. I think it inevitably comes down to you're going to have to split the sports. We're going to end up even though it's pulling teeth, like collective bargaining and calling the like football players and basketball players employees is where this is going to end up, because that's a system that has proven it works. And that's really the only system that proves it works. And all this other litigation and all these lawsuits and all these new rules are essentially trying to find new ways to define what an employee is. And like it will destroy whatever model of amateurism that did or used to exist. It doesn't like, but like to avoid just like completely destroying what the Olympic side of college sports are and the non-revenue drawing sports, like I don't see any other way besides literally separating them and treating them differently, because at the end of the day, like they are different.
I think football should be separate. When you talk about basketball, that's tricky because it's the NCAA tournament, so separating
But you can
a little tricky. Like the FBS hasn't been a part of NCAA sports for decades now. So that split is a lot cleaner than basketball separating, just from a business standpoint, separating from the NCAA entirely. I really do just think it should be, have this. Oh man, I'm kind of going off the fly here, but have this 20.5 mil cap for those Olympic sports, including basketball, because that's also an Olympic sport. And then, you have football and keep that, the wild, wild west, NIL at the wazoo. No one cares, no regulations. I think that wouldn't be the worst thing. And I don't think, paying ridiculous amounts of money for players is something that's been going on for half a century. So I don't see how it's ruining the sport in any way. So, obviously we all hope there's more regulations, but like some of the fans in the chat have been saying, like, I think there's a big concern where, if there are more regulations, that's bad for IU in the sense that we're going to follow the rules. And then the University of Tennessee, Knoxville, University of Kentucky, Louisiana State University, University of Alabama, they're not going to follow the rules. And that's where I think there's a lot of concern with. Everyone who's listening to this pod knows I'm a big fan of not following the rules. Do what you got to do to win. That's the most important thing. See what the punishment is. Ask for forgiveness later, not permission, And, and then it brings me back to this one thing where it's like, okay, if LSU cheats, what are they going to do to LSU? They're not going to give them the death penalty. They're not going to make it. I mean, they might, but
I have your answer.
A school like Indiana, not a ton of football history, could be the type of school you make an example out of if they're cheating, So it's like, I don't know, just kind of spitballing there.
No. Well, let me put this in front of you, because this is where I was going next. The other part of this that's happening in the background that's not getting nearly enough press and nearly enough talking about is this college sports committee, which officially named its CEO Brian Seeley. He's from baseball, the MLB. He was in their legal department like for a really long time. I didn't do a super deep dive on Seeley, but like straight out of the Manfred cabinet, if he runs his like committee anything like Manfred did, then there really probably aren't going to be many punishments. So I'm really curious to see how that goes. But the disciplinary power in college sports is shifting away from the NCAA and towards this committee. Like you talk about the NCAA tournament, like I'm not sure how we're going to be able to split that for basketball. And I think there's a lot of like heavy lifting that needs to be done. But like I think if you talk to a lot of these power conference executives, CEO, whatever, in a back room with no recorder, like the NCAA is not in the plans for college sports in the next 10 to 15 years. Like it is proven it is not willing to be what it needs to be as a pillar of the sport. And to be honest, football doesn't need the NCAA. Basketball probably doesn't either, but to your point, the multi-level organization of the different, like it'd be a lot harder to put together, but like I don't think the NCAA is in the future of college sports, and I don't think that means we're looking at some kind of drastic change for college sports. I just think you're just not going to call it the NCAA anymore because they're losing power.
They need a restructuring is what they like to call it in corporate America, at least. And, whether you just make it two separate entities, like I said, I mean, the only hand in the cookie jar the NCAA had with Division 1A football was FBS, as opposed to FCS, where they have the NCAA playoffs for Division 1. The only hand they had in that cookie jar was eligibility rules. They didn't really everything, and then recruiting cycles. They had a hand in that as well, which is just, cookie cutter across all sports anyways. Each sport has their own rules and own schedules and things like that. So, I mean, that split, it just seems too easy. And I think it's important to separate football. Honestly, get rid of conferences at that point, make everyone independent, make a super league. I think the further we go, obviously it's, as a traditionalist, it makes me almost want to throw up, but it's like, it's kind of what needs to happen to
We're too far from what traditional college football was to then revert and go back. Like, it's a nice nostalgia piece, but like, it's once you open Pandora's box the way they did, like, there's no going back.
Yeah. When was it open, do you think?
When they okayed NIL. But it also could have, like, I've talked about this a lot too, is like, if you're the NCAA, like, this wasn't like, holy shit, I can't believe this just popped up. Like, these are things that have been litigated for decades. So it's like, to not see this coming, or to not have a plan in place to be a part of the solution and not essentially just be grinding teeth and most of the problem, is a decision I'll never understand, because it's going to end up cutting them out of college sports when it didn't need to be that way. Like, they held all of the cards, all of the leverage. All they had to do was let a little bit of the pie go, and they just either didn't want to, or it's one of the mysteries I have yet to solve. I'm truly not sure why we are in the place we are, because it really just should have been a no-brainer. But here we are.
Yeah. We'll see what goes on. It's I'm still, like, honestly just digesting the whole thing. I don't even know. I don't think it's changed anything instantly, but I guess every NIL moving forward from that date has to get approved. Do they have to send approvals for every past NIL deal too for approval? That's something I saw they had to do.
I think it's everything. I literally think it's that they want to track. The thing is, you can't possibly enforce it if everybody doesn't buy in. And there was a Ross Dellinger tweet today that the NCAA and the Power Conference are talking about pushing back the opt-in date for the settlement for schools outside of the Power Conferences from, I think, like July 1st to the 15th or whatever the date was. So, like, we're still having schools opt into this settlement.
Yeah, it's 134 teams currently in FBS level football. Man, it's hard to regulate that. We're talking 85 kids on each team, 135. I mean, you do the math. I mean, that's thousands of NIL. I mean, assuming every kid gets some sort of NIL deal, that's multiple thousand NIL deals that they have to navigate over the course of one off season, which is not 365 days. They have to get this stuff done between signing day, which is mid of end season, around late November, and then regulate that all the way up until kickoff the next year. They have to ensure everything's in place and make sure no funny business is going on. So, I mean, it's just a tough task, and I don't know. We'll see. Hopefully no one's slacking off at work and checking their phone and scrolling TikTok, because they gotta put their nose at the grindstone,
No, seriously. There better be smoke coming out of Deloitte.
I don't know. Are they going to leverage AI to get this done? Who knows? That could be a good idea. And, if hit my DMs. Anyways.
There was a Yahoo Sports article written by AI that was getting shredded on Twitter that I don't know. I don't think we're at I think we're probably close, but I don't know if we're at the point where we want to just fully hand over this stuff to AI. Well, that stuff, yes, but the sports writing, no.
No, not sports writing. No, anything creative should stay far away from AI. Anything that is business processes, automation, anything that you can automate from a business sense, like
100%.
Like auditing NIL contracts. Yeah. That should be that's AI sweet. That's bread and butter, baby. That's what it does. It automates. Key buzzword there. Anyways, I don't like talking about work. All right, so let's keep it sports here.
Well, yeah, we're definitely keeping. I mean, this is like there is no bigger story in college sports right now, and you can't have X, Y, and Z happen without seeing what the fallout for this settlement is. So obviously, we're going to keep a huge eye on it, and then when we start to get some more clarity, we'll be bringing that to you. The other huge thing that happened this week, Brad, was a massive recruiting weekend, an absolutely massive recruiting weekend for our
I want to
Indiana
call
Hoosiers.
Abel out real quick before we get into this. Abel's talking to us youngsters like we don't know what the Big East used to be. I know all about the Big East. I know all about it. You want to talk to the Keezer's a Jersey kid. He knows all about the Big East.
I mean, yeah, I grew up watching Mike Teal and I have to say his
Mike
name.
Teal,
Ray Rice
Kenny Britt, Ray Rice on
Kenny
Duke,
Britt and
in that Brian Braun game in Louisville.
Brian Leonard,
Pat White, Steve Slayton.
We could do a whole podcast on Brian Leonard.
Yeah, we should make this a Big East pod. Honestly, let's talk about the Big East. Let's talk about Matt Grothe at
I grew up in the
University of South Florida.
East.
Got them ranked number 2 one year. That's electric.
Yeah.
Anyways, enough of our little Big East tangent for Abel. There we go.
But no, it was an absolutely massive recruiting weekend, Brad. I don't know if you have the list of visitors sitting in front of you or who was on campus this weekend, but obviously the 3 commits. We got PJ McFarland, tight end, Eastlake High School out of Ohio. He committed first. Then we got Cortez Rupert, receiver out of East St. Louis. A lot of Easts going down. East St. Louis, not near, or it might be near St. Louis. I don't know where it is, but it's in Illinois, not in Missouri. And then today we got Jaden Williams, linebacker, also from Ohio. So they had a bunch of guys on campus. I know Casimir Hicks was on campus. Jacob Savage was on campus. I believe Trevor Gibbs was on campus as well. So yeah, huge weekend. It needed to be a big weekend for Indiana. The class is now up to 13. Initial takeaways before we kind of jump into the individuals, and then we'll talk about.
Yeah, big picture stuff, right? Of the 10 that visited, 6 have now committed to IU from just this past weekend. I'd say from a number as a math guy, that just looks really promising, honestly. And of all the guys they've brought to campus so far, which only 4 of the, I'm doing quick math right now. Hold on. Only 4 of the 24 that have been on campus so far have committed to other schools. The math is mathing. I mean, we're just hitting on a higher.
It's good math. I mean, the IndyCar was gorgeous. With the college football playoff logoing all over it and the Win 26 on there, like it was absolutely phenomenal job. The stuff like the boards and the fire and the fireworks and they're doing like it. I wasn't nervous, but obviously like going into the weekend and it's being hyped up by us, by others, not just us, that like you want to like see like the kids look cool when they go to the like put on Indiana's uniform and like it looks legit. Like it's still weird. It's like somebody said pinch me under one of the recruitment posts that I put out, and it was like, no, this is real life. Like this is Indiana football. Like we look sick. Like it is a wild world we live in.
Yeah, like the highlight packages that we've been seeing, right?
Yes.
Like you can just tell. Like obviously they're just highlights, but I mean they're moving so fast. All the plays they're showing are just electric. You're just like, whoa, is that a one-handed grab? Like after like this DB makes an insane swipe, like you're just seeing elite play after elite play after elite play in these highlights. It's not just like Shedeur Sanders throwing it and then they have to clip off to a different throw of Jimmy Horn catching it. Like these are just solid football plays.
I was talking about
They're just.
Well, I was talking about specifically for the recruiting. The recruiting social media output just looks like it looks official. It looks good. Like it's just like they're doing good things. I really like what I'm seeing out of the social media and that side of it.
I haven't seen any of that. Like, are they highlight packages for the commits or?
Yeah. Well, they're not like the commit highlights, but it's the commit in like the uniform, and then the side by side. Yeah. And then the side by side with like the big X, the plug, like committed in the, like it's a good look.
Yeah, I like it.
But PJ McFarland, the tight end from Eastlake, like I know these are just huddles, but like he's just a free mover. He goes up and attacks the football. Like it's just like it's easy to see why he's a Grant Kane guy. And then you look at Cortez Rupert, it's like guy who plays inside out. Cortez Rupert,
Slot.
after every single one of his highlights, it was like that play should have been first. Wait, that play should have been first. Wait, that play should have been first. It was like that dude's huddle is ridiculous. And then Jaden Williams' huddle, like it's just it's really exciting the work the staff is doing. They're bringing in a lot of really talented players, and that's why they're right now a composite top 25 class according to 24/7.
I mean, you're seeing a pattern. I mean, with Williams, it's a clear pattern what they're doing with linebackers. They're going for speed over yeah, I don't know. I don't know Fahey personally, John. I'm sorry.
No, we'll talk about him in a second.
When it comes to Williams, I mean, it's clear they have a model. They're going for speed over size initially. Obviously, they went with Savage early on. He already has some size to him, more of the Fisher type. And then, but it looks like they're bringing a lot of Jalen Walker types, just super athletic, bendy linebackers that can just do a whole lot, get into coverage, attack the quarterback, fill gaps. They can just do it all. They're just all around great athletes. McFarland, just the prototypical. I mean, I love it. He's like 6'5", pushing 6'6". Listed at 205 right now. I mean, it's just peanut butter jelly sandwiches from here on out for him.
That's an off season and a half with Derek Owings. I'm not even worried about that.
Yeah, I'm not worried about him at all. And then Cortez Rupert, just he's a slot. So that's fun to bring in.
The linebacking core, they're like the group of linebackers they're bringing in this class between Henry Olinger and Savage and now Williams. It's Brian Haynes is diabolical. That's all I'll say.
Yeah, so they have currently 9 scholarship linebackers. They're losing one they will only lose one because Hardy can't go early, and I highly doubt Bones Jones goes early to the draft. So they're going to lose Fisher. So at this point, they have 11 scholarship linebackers coming in next year. That's some very solid depth. I'd be surprised if they actually, I take that back because I have Utzinger on my list. So that would be 10 scholarship linebackers, including plus Utzinger next year. Amazing depth at that position. That's a 5 deep plus Utzinger, who I have listed at my 3 deep right now as the third string linebacker. So just having that level of depth in a room when you're going to be expecting to lose one of your best players on defense is just promising to see. It's just well done roster construction. I mean, they could take in a big class because it sounds like they're sticking with 80 scholarships going into this year. So they can take a much bigger class than they normally do, which is the typical 25. So I could see them going 30 plus with this.
Well,
we'll see.
I don't know.
I don't know what the rules are there.
Well, Sig
have a certain amount of early entrance, and then you gotta, the math has to math. But
Sig talked about, I can't remember which interview he talked about this on, but he talked about the high school class being around 20 or more, depending on what the rev share and all that stuff. So I'd probably anticipate a bigger portal class again, but we'll see.
We'll see about that. Is he gonna say no to Fahey and Travis Johnson? I don't know.
No, he's not. To go back to John's point about Luke Fahey, he was on campus this week. I can't speak to I believe Matt Weaver wrote an article, but it was behind a paywall about Fahey's visit. But I know Adam Gorney, he's somewhere up there with 24/7, but he wrote an article from a Stanford slant about Fahey going into the weekend, essentially saying that nothing's going to happen on the Fahey front until he visits Ohio State. That's on the 20th. There's been talks of him picking up a midweek Oregon visit. Ryder Lyons, who's a 5-star in the same class, just announced he's going to take an official visit to Oregon. So I'm not sure where that leaves Fahey. But at least going into the weekend, it was stated publicly that Luke Fahey wasn't going to make a decision this weekend. That being said, you still like to think there's a chance when you get into the ecosystem and see what's going on that you have a chance to be wooed or persuaded or whatnot, but it's kind of a wait and see for Fahey. So it'll be interesting to see what Indiana does. I think if they are unconfident or are unsure about what his decision is going to be, that you'll see them move quickly to a different quarterback in this class. But it's just, we're on a wait and see with Fahey.
In his defense, if I'm a 4-star quarterback, I'm also not going to commit to Indiana if I have a Ohio State visit on the way, considering what they've done with Fields, Stroud, McCord, Will Howard. I mean, how do you not go that? How do you not at least entertain that idea, right? So I appreciate him making an informed decision. And look at us, year 2 under Sig. It's a quarterback battle between Oregon, Ohio State, and Indiana.
And Stanford.
I mean, it gets to a point where we need to stop celebrating just being in the dance, and hopefully we win. We win one of these every once in a while. We've talked about Showtime sales. We've talked about, some other recruits as well. It would be great to win one moving forward. I mean, we won Byron Baldwin last year over Colorado. I don't think that's the same as, beating a guy out over beating a freshman
like, I'm not going
recruit
to
out over another playoff team, right?
Our starting quarterback's Fernando Mendoza. And if you look at the
no.
discourse around Gunnar Stockton, that should tell you everything you need to know about how Georgia felt about their quarterback room and how much they wanted Fernando Mendoza. So it's like, they win battles. Like, I honestly was thinking about this today. It's funny enough because
let's win one without a sibling already on the roster, though.
Well, I was gonna say, if I got the chance to ask a question to Signetti, it would be like, do you feel disrespected by the fact that people don't they don't call him a great recruiter? And it's crazy because he is a great recruiter and the staff recruits really well. And so to not just assume he knows what he's looking at when it comes to this stuff is crazy to me. He has the track record that says completely otherwise.
The reality is that he has to get 3 top 25 classes in a row before people start talking about him like that. So, but when he does that, and fast forward 3 years from now, when he does have 3 straight top 25 classes, looking like this year is going to be one of those. I imagine the next 2 years, based on the buzz that we saw from this last visit, is going to be, a much better class than this year. So yeah, I mean, he's got to earn the respect. I mean, we've done our homework and know that the recruiting potential's there. Just him being on that Saban staff early on as the recruiting coordinator, but from the media, respect is earned, not given. So,
they're getting the respect from Jalen Brewster, who's the top rated defensive tackle in the class of 2027. He was on campus this past weekend as well.
He's calling Natty in 2 years.
He was. That was crazy. He's not even a part of the program.
Can you reclassify and come into this class? Like, I would love that. Let's do it.
But he's not the only one. Like, people come into the program and they're like, "Oh yeah, they're going to do something special." It's just it's not a matter of if, it's when. And so the right things are being said again when people see what's going on the inside and then take a step back. It's like, holy cow! Like, they're operating at a high level.
I'm with it. Yeah. I'm cool with him not committing. I mean, if I was a kid, if it was my son, I'd be like, yeah, you're not committing to Indiana. You're going on that. Obviously, he's like, you're going to Indiana, me personally, but like as an objective person, I'd be like, yeah, you got to go check out Ohio State before, you make any sort of decision here. So yeah, let's see what we can do. And let's hope, I wouldn't say like hope Ryan Day fumbles the bag, because I think our pitch could be just straight up better than what Ohio State's offering, right? So you never know what's being said. It's all, speculation from us, but we're in a quarterback, recruiting battle between Oregon and Ohio State. And
it's clear that Ohio State is definitely like watching Indiana's 24/7 and just like targeting a lot of the same guys. So I'm not sure how serious. Like, I'm not saying it's not serious interest from Ohio State, but I wouldn't even be surprised if they were just doing it so Indiana didn't get them.
Yeah, that's a great strategy, honestly. Not bad.
It really is.
We've noticed that trend where it's like we're after a guy and then, they got an Ohio State offer. They got a Michigan offer. Interesting.
Henry Olinger commits. Next day, Ohio State
offer.
There to see him.
Unreal. Yeah, that's how it goes.
If it happens once, you're like, if it happens like 3 or 4 times, you're like, it's good strategy though.
Yeah, you got to make your move before it's too late. It's basically, recruiting's like dating, basically.
It is. No, it really is. That's why it'll be interesting to see how quickly the speed with which Indiana makes a decision at quarterback in this class will tell you how they feel about Luke Fahey and their chances of him committing. But yeah, there was a lot of like other smoke around the football program this week, Brad, other than obviously the huge weekend. This wasn't just Indiana related, but you can make your school money by playing college football 26, which is insane. So I'll definitely be putting in some time for the Hoosiers. That's for sure.
Is this like does it have to be online games? Can I just like,
I'm
play
honestly not
now?
even sure.
Like how does this work? Like how many dynasties are being made? Cuz I can just make like 10 gajillion dynasty files and just like not even touch them in
No, I
theory.
think you have to play the games.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
Understood. All right. Cool.
We got it, actually. I want to shout out Lawrence North's wide receiver coach, Coach Jermaine Wilson. He put up a picture with Davion Chandler and Omar Cooper today. We talked about the Lawrence North connection a lot. The wide receiver coach who's helping to develop all of these guys. So shout out to Coach Wilson. But Omar Cooper in that picture looked like a damn superhero. Like you could tell that kid's been in the weight room all winter working out, because like not that he had like a size problem or like a conditioning problem or anything, but like yeah, Omar Cooper's been in the gym. Like it's evident that kid's been putting in work. Like holy cow, he looked massive.
We talked about him in the spring where he was really focused on his speed and his explosiveness specifically. Like that were the two things that he needed to take to the next level in his game, right? That's just the separation piece of his game. Because as good as he is at catching the 50-50 balls, the contested catches, he's super strong, can take a hit and still hold on to it. Plays taller than his actual height, which is 6'2". He plays like a 6'4". It's the separation. That's the one thing in his game where you can almost, where it's like borderline neutral, like could lean like an actual weakness. I think he's a pretty solid all around player, but when it comes to his speed and I mean yards after the catch, would love to see more of that from Omar and Elijah Surratt next year, because I don't, EJ Williams isn't much of a yak guy. Tyler Morris was kind of supposed to be our big yak guy, so now it kind of falls onto guys like Davion Chandler to be big yak guys. Because remember, we relied heavily on Key Williams and Miles Price getting yards after the catch. That was a big part of our offense. And
Don't sleep
obviously
on
Mekhi Jackson isn't back yet, and that's like kind of his thing. So to have him back in the fold will be huge. But yeah, to get that from Omar, who's going to be with the ones, is ginormous. It's huge.
I wouldn't sleep on Omar's yak ability either. Going through Indiana highlights, trying to pick out different clips to highlight, and I still haven't picked out the one that I'm going to post tomorrow for the edit. So when I figure that out, obviously I'll figure that one out. But Omar Cooper was catching long touchdowns in a bunch of different ways. It wasn't just like deep ball back shoulder. It was like deep crosser over the middle, find the middle of the zone, run away from a bunch of guys. Like he scored from 35-40 a couple times.
Yeah. I feel like a lot of most of his big plays were like contested 30-yard bombs, contested catch. Like that is like at its core what Omar Cooper does. Like he's a basketball
100%.
player,
Yeah. He's throw the ball up, let him go get it.
He does.
Yep. Back to Buffton Prime, I guess. Funny enough, D'Angelo Ponz was getting major love as a tackler. That's something that like doesn't get talked about enough in his game, because we talk about him as a cover guy, him taking away half the field. But when you talk about this Bryant Haynes defense, you need your corners to tackle. And when running backs and like people get on the outside to D'Angelo Ponz's side, he makes the tackle. Like he is an unbelievable tackler, very underrated, doesn't get enough credit for it. And that's part of what makes him such a great player. He's a complete player, but hell of a tackler, D'Angelo Ponz.
Best cornerback in the country. I know there's a lot of hype around that corner up north in South Bend being the best corner in the country. I'm taking Ponz all day. All day.
All day, every day.
All day, every day, twice on Sunday. Actually, no, twice on Saturday, actually. It's better just, because they get it because they play on Saturday.
I get it. I want to shout out Blake Teary. Took home 3 gold medals and a silver medal in track. The dude just keeps raking it in.
Former Freak of the Week. I guess he'll just get another one this week. Here we go.
I think only Freak of the Week.
Called the Blake Teary Freak of the Week award. Honestly, moving forward.
I like it. We'll keep it. We'll set it for week 1. The Blake Teary Freak of the Week award. My notes are all over the place this week. And then obviously we got the Indiana football video edited by Trevor Bowens, which was awesome. But we got Signetti just screaming at the boys, motivating the boys about how nobody believes in them and that people are doubting them again. And it fired me up, Brad. I don't know if you had a chance to see it.
I think I did see that clip a little bit. Yeah, because it wasn't him speaking; it was his words over a montage of highlights. If I'm not mistaken,
you are correct.
Yeah, and that's kind of what I was alluding to earlier. Like every play seems super high level because they were showing, spring and kind of the summer workouts as well. I mean, we're just trusting the process here. Sig's gonna do his thing. He's a way of motivating. That is, he knows how to get his team. One thing that we don't talk about enough, and we should. We've brought it up before, but I just don't think we talk about it enough. Is that there wasn't really any drop off game after game. I think every week IU showed up. I think the story is that we play Ohio State and we play Notre Dame. As much as we hate to say it, there's a talent gap. There just is. And I think we played to what we can that year. And 11-2, we play up to our potential. There's tons of teams out there. We see all the hype with USC. I'm going to use them as an example here. This isn't the first time they've had the number one recruiting class and they're killing it. This is a team that when Sark was there, it's the same deal. Bringing in all we're locking in SoCal. We're bringing in all the best modern day St. John Bosco players. Fired. Same thing with Lane Kiffin before him. Bringing in all the best, locking in Southern California. Fired. Ever since Pete Carroll left, it's been the same old story. Haven't been able to maximize their potential. So great, awesome. I hope Indiana can get to a point to where they're at USC's level recruiting wise, at least at the high school level. It doesn't matter until you get between those hashes. Does not matter. Nothing matters until you put fingers in the dirt. Doesn't matter. So, I'm fired up. Can't wait for the season. I need to order my Phil Steele book. That actually just reminded me.
Yes, you do.
I do.
I want to shout out Coach Buddha Williams. He was teaching D-line drills for the Glazer clinics. You can go check those videos out. He posted it on his own Twitter. The Glazer clinics also posted it on their Twitter. And to wrap up Indiana football, they extended an offer to Brady Quinn, quarterback in the class of 2028. I say that only because, and it's funny, it was noted, his name is Brady Quinn, named after Brady Quinn, but no relation.
Crazy. I mean, I kind of want him to go to Notre Dame, but I'm glad we offered him. I think it'd be awesome if he went there. But yeah,
he's visiting Notre Dame too. Don't worry.
Yeah, he seems like a pretty high level recruit. So awesome that we were able, that we gave him an offer and put our, hat in the ring. Yeah, a cool name, super nostalgic. Brady Quinn was kind of fun. It's first, quarterbacks that, I remember watching growing up. So yeah, pretty cool to have it come full circle. I wish it was his son. I wish it was Brady Quinn Jr. That'd be
that's what I thought.
That would make me feel
that's why
really
I was
old.
pumped. That's why I sent it to you and Jamie. I was like, holy shit, look at this. And then I was like, it's not Brady Quinn. Yeah. He just named
I actually knew all that because I remember seeing him on my feed a while ago, and I had to check into that. So I knew when you sent that, I'm like, I hope he doesn't think that's Brady Quinn's kid. I hope not.
Chat questions before we hop over to a little bit of basketball talk. SoCal Hot Sauce says, how much of an improvement do you expect expect Fernando Mendoza to be over Curtis Rourke in terms of mobility, playmaking, and overall offensive impact for 2025? Brad,
I think at his floor, he's at Curtis Rourke level, in my opinion. It's that mobility and his ability to decipher defenses already so early in his career. He's been able to do this. I mean, he's only getting better. He's so much younger. I think he's 3 years younger than Curtis Rourke was last year going into this year. Something like that, 2 or 3 years. So I'd say he has more tools than Rourke. maybe not as much experience, but he's a really, really smart kid. You know, he talked about in his interview how if he did end up coming to Yale, he probably would have just dropped football and gone to investment banking, which is, you know, for really smart people. So, yeah, I believe in the kid. He's super gritty. He has all the intangibles on top of all the tools. 6'5", cannon arm, mobility, athleticism, loves the game, grinds tape,
Work ethic,
work ethic, has everything, you know? So, yes, I will be placing a bet on Mendoza winning the Heisman because I've tweeted it out before. It will be happening. I believe it's plus 6,500, right?
I think it was plus 5,000.
Plus 5,000? Even better.
Yeah.
Well, I guess it's not better, but like, you know.
But yeah, I completely agree. I think at his floor, you're going to see essentially like it's funny to say that as like Rourke was 9th in the Heisman and he was phenomenal, but it's like that's the type of player from the pocket Fernando Mendoza can be. And then you look at what the biggest issue with Rourke was his inability to move when there was pressure up the middle. That's in theory not going to be an issue for Mendoza. So it raises the ceiling of this football team exponentially. Then it just comes down to decision making when Mendoza's out of the pocket, and like he's shown he's going to be a good decision maker. So yeah, I'm about as excited as I can be. I'm going to go back and clip the first time Brad called him Andrew Luck. So Brad has that, and then you can flaunt
That was
that
in February.
that
was before all these articles. I saw another mock draft had him going 14 overall.
Dude, I mean, listen, it's not like I keep saying this until I'm blue in the face, but it's like people look at the Indiana fans like we're just like trying to sell them rotten fruit. It's like, do you look at the players that are on this team, the people who are coming back? And it's like, that's why we're so excited. It's like people who, oh, Indiana's bad history and this guy, and it's like you can pick a nitpick from any school in the country, but it's like I don't know. We know what we're looking at. That's what I'll say. John says ranked 27th today in terms of recruiting, highest ranked in Indiana history. I saw them as high as 24th. When I checked later in the day, it was 25th. I'm not sure what they're at now. If it's 27th now, but
live on 24/7 right now.
Is it updated on On3 yet? They weren't even at 13 commits on On3 today.
Oh, Abel got Mendoza plus 10,000. Gee,
you Abel. Let's go, Abel.
Which book, Abel? Which book?
Mendoza. John says Mendoza has 2 legs that makes him more mobile.
It's not.
That is a fact.
I mean, even if Rourke had 2 legs, he's more mobile than Rourke ever was, even at Ohio. People have been telling me to watch his Ohio tape. I know Mendoza. And when I say he's Andrew Luck, I'm not like kidding. Tool wise, he's got it. He looks the part. The throwing motion too. It's tight. It's quick. It's accurate. It's
well, you go back to his NBC interview and he's talking about attacking his 5 to 10 reps at Cal like he was Tom Brady preparing for the Super Bowl, and it's like that's again like we talked about Signetti at points last year, and I can't remember which Sigs Inside episode it was on, but he's like a movie character where it's just he like somehow always says the right thing, and it's like it's not that Fernando Mendoza is going out of his way to be like, this is my origin story, but just by answering questions, it's like, green flag, green flag, green flag. It's like, I'm excited.
I'll tell you what, as a kid, I never thought about selling mangoes door to door. Never thought about it. We had a lemon tree, avocado tree in my backyard. never even crossed my mind to go sell that stuff door to door. I sold candy. His mind as opposed to me. And that's why I do podcasts and work a corporate job. And he is probably going to go first round in the NFL. It's just different, wired different, you know?
I used to sell candy on the beach, Brad, and the owner of the beach club came up to us and stopped our operation because we were outselling the snack bar.
That's baller.
Yeah. So that's what I got for Indiana football this week. If you are watching
ran through that crazy quick. I
mean,
I gotta get that Phil Steele.
Oh, yes, you're right. You are right, because I had something else I wanted to bring up, and it sent me down another rabbit hole, and I keep doing this. I really have to make my notes more organized, but there was a post from one of the college football.
Stop it, John. He's not Roger Staubach. Stop it right there.
There was a post from one of those college football engagement accounts that said if Indiana and Oklahoma locked up in 2025, who would win?
Oh, yeah, I
And
remember that tweet.
it
And it was kind of like,
actually, well, hold on, Brad. I'll layer this onto you. It brought me back to somebody made a comment to us last week when we were talking about Mendoza versus Mateer, essentially saying that Mateer has had better production over his career. And so you can't use the production over potential argument if you're going to say Mendoza is better than Mateer. So it sent me down like a Mendoza versus Mateer, a rabbit hole. And if you want to talk production, like Mateer started for 1 season, Mendoza started for 2 seasons. So like production, actually, I would argue like slightly towards Mendoza. But I want to bring this up and present it to you. Indiana versus Oklahoma in 2025. What happens?
in this upcoming year. I haven't really looked into Oklahoma. I know they're going to be a lot better than they were last year, bringing in Jaden Ott. And like their offense is going to be good. Brent Venables, I know that defense is going to be good. They lose Danny Stutzman, who's kind of the pulse of that defense. They got to replace. They basically just need to find a leader on that defense to find consistency, right? But they're good. Like we saw what they did against Bama last year. That defense can show up when needed, and with the Venables scheme, that's a good defense to just bet on, right? And then they bring in Ott, they bring in Mateer, and if you haven't watched Mateer play, think he's like that modern prototypical, not the 6'5" like Mendoza, where he's more of like the old school mobile 6'5" guy. Mateer is like your Zach Wilsons, your Caleb Williams, like 6'2", really throws the sidearm, can throw in different angles because he is shorter, so he has to, right? And he's crazy accurate, super mobile. He's a very good player. Could end up in the first round himself, to be honest. After watching some of the throws he's made at Wazoo. What happens in that game on a neutral field? Where is this being played?
We'll call it neutral field for the sake of the
Yeah,
argument.
I think Indiana wins that game 31-24. I think it's an absolute slugfest. I mean, they're just two really solid teams. Like, even if at the end of the day, I think Indiana's 11-1, Oklahoma probably can go 8-4 in the SEC, maybe even 9 wins, maybe even 10 wins. Who knows with them? We'll see. I mean, like I said, it's all about getting the job done, and I know for a fact Indiana can outgrind teams, and that's what I think would happen in that game. I don't think the talent gap is to a point to where Oklahoma can overwhelm them like in Notre Dame or Ohio State did to Indiana last year. Also, Indiana's talent level, their gap to Notre Dame and Ohio State got closed a little bit. I'm not saying it's like we're there, but it's the gap is smaller than what it was last year. That's just what it is. So yeah, I take Indiana in a close one. Obviously, grind it out. Think like Illinois, South Carolina, something like that. Like I'm gonna give them respect. Like I always shit on the SEC, but they're still really good. It's like when we play USC this year. Like I'm gonna take us 31-24 if we were to play USC. That's how I kind of see Oklahoma. Like they're USC. They're ascending, blue blood school, tons of talent always. We just haven't seen them yet, right? So it's really hard to gauge. I'm taking us right now by a touchdown, at least 31-24.
I agree. I tweeted something along the lines of, and if you're watching on Twitter, hop on over to YouTube, interact in the chat, ask questions, comments.
I was saying we're doing hypotheticals right now, Abel. I'm sorry because it's June.
Brad, this was your job was to send people.
We're not playing USC.
Your job was to send people from Twitter and Facebook to the YouTube chat. But on Twitter, I tweeted something along the lines of, we know the SEC is undefeated in hypotheticals, but it's an Indiana thing to be taking zeros. It was a reference to the Halliburton finals, like down whatever the stat was for game 1. But yeah, Hoosiers by 1 million for sure. 100%.
Yeah, I think we win that game. I think their defense does a good job of overwhelming us. I know our offensive line's better than it was last year. I think they're a blitz heavy scheme. Oklahoma is. If you ever watched the Clemson teams from 8 years ago, very similar to that. Just very good up front, overwhelm you with blitzes all day. It's just really about getting the ball out. And I think Shanahan would have a great game plan for that, to be honest. So I think we'll figure it out. If we're doing hypotheticals, I'm not a big hypothetical guy, but I mean, Indiana went to the playoff last year. Oklahoma didn't, at the end of the day.
Yep.
11 wins versus 6 wins. I think there is a world where Oklahoma could beat Indiana, but I think most of the time Indiana would win.
I think there's a world where any team can beat any team, bro.
There's a world where Northern Illinois beats the national runner-up. You know, there's that happened.
And we
last
live in
year.
it. We live in that world. Do
We
you
live in
have
that
a?
world.
You said you were like, I can't believe we only like it was this. You feel like it was short for football? Are there more things you want to get off your chest?
Just, we had a big like recruiting week, and I just typically don't have much to say about the recruits because
That's what I'm saying. Like you're like, I see like Cortez Rupert.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, slot.
yeah, he's a slot guy. I haven't watched too much of him to be honest, but he's a slot guy. He just is, and yeah, excited for him. Where did they? Hold on. So Williams from Ohio, we love that. Rupert, East St. Louis. Let me tell you about East St. Louis.
Please.
Really good skill guys come out of there. You want to know who came out of East St. Louis that was drafted recently?
Enlighten us, Brad.
Luther Burden. Wow. It's crazy. Another slot from East St. Louis. Wow. Crazy.
Can we sidebar on
Obviously, he
Luther
was a
Burden real quick?
Actually, he was a 5-star, very different from Cortez Rupert, but same
Can
area.
we-
They have tons of talent always. Yeah.
Let me sidebar on Luther Burden real quick. I'm nervous as a fantasy owner because he didn't practice all mini camp with a soft tissue injury, and then Ben Johnson got on Mike, what was it, yesterday, and was basically like, yeah, it sucks he missed all that time. He missed a whole bunch of time to develop, and it's not good. And so I'm nervous.
I think he'll be fine. Did you draft him in Dynasty?
Yeah, I mean, I don't want to talk about it, but yes, I did.
Dude, it's fine. He's gonna go crazy.
No, I traded Jamison Williams for him plus.
Not my Bears, Abel. Come on. We're gonna be back.
It's a long-term play. I'm deep on receivers. This is definitely not. We're not talking about my dynasty team.
It is true. A lot of wealth to be spread on the Bears. We're talking DJ Moore. We're talking Roma Dunze. We're talking Luther Burden, and we're talking Colson Loveland, and we're talking Cole Kmet. I mean, that's 5.
We're talking about this. We're talking about the slot.
Receivers.
We're talking about the dominant slot in a Ben Johnson offense.
Ooh, there we go. Yeah, he does fit that. Like, I mean, if we want to talk Bears right now, they drafted Loveland, who's like the Laporta prototype, and then they get brought in Burden, who's like a Monroe St. Brown. So it's like it's very obvious what they're trying to do in Chicago. So
that was my thinking. But I digress. Something that's going to be really cool and something that I'm personally super excited for is there is what seems to be a Sydney Parrish, Trisha Whitaker collab on the way for like involving Hoosiers Connect in some way, shape, or form. Sid Parrish, obviously beloved Indiana Hoosier. Trisha Whitaker, a professor at Indiana, sideline reporter for the Rays. She also does Apple TV's Sunday or Friday Night Baseball. But she was the first official interview of the Sideline podcast, which was hosted by me, Justin Berger, and Doug Watley. That was during COVID. So I personally interviewed Trisha Whitaker. So she was awesome. My 2 podcast like co-hosts at the time had her as a professor. I didn't have the chance to take her class, but so I'm super excited to see which way that goes. I know obviously we know the level of Hoosier that Sid Parrish is, but Trisha Whitaker is a very proud Hoosier herself, so this is going to be really cool.
Yeah, do you think we could interview her again?
I don't know. I mean, maybe. I would have no problem reaching out. I wasn't the initial contact or primary contact for that, but obviously I'm still close to the people I did the podcast with, so it's probably something we could.
I think that'd be cool. Be a cool little reunion.
I'm a big fan.
Yeah.
And then just a little bit of basketball news, Brad. The Coaches Challenge is coming to college basketball. I saw this tweet from Jeff Borrello. He said that there will be no video review in I think in the last 2 minutes without a challenge, or no video or no out of bounds review without a challenge. So definitely an interesting wrinkle added to college basketball.
Interesting. Yeah, I'm sure it'll play out. I'm sure it'll be fine. Not too concerned about that. Is that the only thing that's reviewable? I'm pretty sure it's going to be similar to like the NBA, the Coaches Challenge that's been implemented just this year. So if it's anything similar to that, I think that's worked out pretty good. So I have no problems with that. Anything to make the 2 games similar is A-okay in my book. Because at the end of the day, I've always believed that I get it. The G League's great, but college basketball will always be the minor leagues for the NBA. If you end up in the G League, it's just yeah, you might get a 2-day, you might get a 10-day, you might get a two-way contract, but it's so rare to become a consistent NBA player. Once you even touch the G League, it's very difficult, especially these days. And with the expanded rosters and everything like that, to see the floor from the G League. So anything to make the NBA similar to college, I'm all for it.
Wait, I completely forgot about this actually, but Trey Galloway was having NBA workouts.
He's had 4.
Shout out to Trey Galloway.
Yeah, he's meeting with Woody in Sacramento. He's been.
I know he worked out with the Warriors as well. Yep. And then the Hoosiers are going to bring 7'3" Italian center Luigi Ciugo for a visit next week. So
let's go 7'3".
We've talked about the need or Indiana's lack of height and how they may address that. Now, obviously, this isn't a quick fix, but you go from having the tallest guy in your roster be 6'11" or 6'10" to 7'3", and it's I think he's a class of 26 guy. I think he's like a.
So he can't reclassify and take one of those 2 scholarship spots we have available?
Who knows what's up with these?
Well, even if he does reclassify, if he has to reclassify, he's probably not ready. And even if he is 20, even if he would be able to put him on an Indiana jersey come, the fall, I don't think, his opportunity to play. It's pretty obvious what DeVries' vision is, at least at the 5. It's Bailey and Sam Alexis.
No, he's going to need to put on some size, it looks like, before he's ready to play in the Big Ten.
Is he like a Daimara type skinny? It didn't seem like it, to be honest. But
no, he's not like super. He's not like the 7'5" like stick dude on Florida, but he's also not like built like even Trace was.
Yeah, I mean Trace is 6'9".
Skilled though, very skilled and athletic.
So is a Daimara, and he can start at UCLA under Mick Cronin. So he'll be our problem now at Michigan. So can't get rid of him.
Do you have any Phil Steele thoughts, Brad? Anything eating at you this week?
I need to order that book, honestly, because I heard there was issues with the printing, so I put a pause in it. I've had misprints before. I don't want to besmirch. Misprints are fine. The content is all still there, but just certain things you'll notice, things are kind of back, just misprinted. The content is always fine. It's perfect. It's the just certain details of that book, which is it's the holy grail, guys. If you guys have ever paged through that thing, oh my! If you like college football in the slightest, you'll be intrigued by that book. And yeah, I just wanted to play it safe and not just make sure all those issues are taken care of. And I just don't typically buy it as soon as it comes out, so I'm gonna buy it right after this episode.
And then SoCal Hot Sauce asks again in the chat, any future guests? I know for certain we're going to have Mark Rogers on at some point in the near future. We'll nail that date down with Mark, bring that to the public. And then we have some reaching out to do. But a lot of ideas churning and a lot of exciting things on the horizon, especially as we approach the season. And then once we get in season, we'll be cross promoting between the different voice of college football. We'll have the Iowa team on for Iowa, and we'll have the Illinois guys on for Illinois, and things will start firing as the season comes up. But yeah, we're keeping our eyes and ears out for anyone who we feel like would fit the mold and would be a good episode for the viewers.
Anthony Thompson, it's not a bad idea. Not a bad idea at all. Indiana's all-time leading rusher.
Love it. Absolutely love it. I have some non-Indiana Hoosiers closing thoughts. Well, actually, my Indiana Hoosiers closing thought would be I'm guaranteeing at least one Bloomington appearance by myself this year. I literally feel like the withdrawal from not being in the town. There was a Big Ten or Sig 10 network post about summer in Bloomington, and it kind of brought me back to the senior year summer we spent where we were there for a month and a half after school let out. And it's just the town's beautiful. Like you just people take for granted or they just don't understand like the nature around Bloomington and like it's a really cool place to hang out and I'm excited to get back. And then like with the football team, like in the athletics being in the position they are right now, it's like that I didn't experience any of that when I was on campus. Like we got a muted version of what Penix was, but what
We need
game
to
you
figure
guys
that
coming
out,
to this
Abel.
year?
I
We
think
do
there's
need to
a
figure that
very
out.
big likelihood I end up at the UCLA game. I'll just say it.
I mean, if I had my pick, I would have been at the Illinois game, but one of my buddies is getting married that Thursday, so I won't be able to make it out to that game, which like that is what it is. But it'll be something probably I would like to make the homecoming game. I think that's Michigan State, if I'm not mistaken. Um, Michigan State, UCLA, Wisconsin, one of those probably.
Yeah. I'll likely be at the UCLA game. At least.
And if I can force you into it, you'll be at the Illinois game too.
Yeah. Yeah, I would hope to go to the Illinois game. I also have to check my schedule on that. I think I had something going on. I'll have to check. Don't forget the key at the loft again. Did I leave the key at the loft? Did that happen? That happened, Jay Wizzle? Well, I'll call you after this, Jay Wizzle. We'll see.
Oh, Abel, you're the man. Absolutely. Yeah, I'm excited. That's my
First like, 7. Oh my god, I'm going to every single game, Abel.
I'm excited to go hang out in the tailgate fields. I'm excited to go to upstairs. Like I'm excited to just walk around campus. Like I'm excited to just like actually meet people in person and like talk Hoosiers and like yeah, I'm feeling the withdrawals for sure. I'm jacked up for football season.
I'm itching.
But a couple non-Hoosiers closing thoughts, Brad, as I'm watching Roman Anthony make plays. Is Roman Anthony's on the Boston Red Sox? Nothing else matters now in terms of baseball.
Do you want him?
Want him? Yeah, I do. And
I saw him.
I'm excited. I'm excited for golf this weekend, Brad. That's what I got for you. I'm excited for the U.S. Open. They're at Oakmont, and it looks like the most treacherous course of all time. And I'm excited to watch.
I didn't know the U.S. Open. I actually didn't know the U.S. Open was this weekend, but I'll be golfing at Wilmette Golf Club and possibly breaking 100. Possibly. I think it's this weekend. We'll see. See what goes on. I got this.
But that actually it brought me back to then close it with an Indiana thought. It brought me back to the foul course, and I had the opportunity to play the foul course. I walked the tips. It was 8,000 yards. It was gorgeous. But I went over there like while I was still a student and went like hit range balls. I think it was like $10 for the range, or even if it was that, it might have been free. And like so if you have a chance to go play the foul, it's gorgeous. The U.S. Open is like booked out through like 2040 something, but there's a couple gap years in there. So I'm hoping that gets a chance to host, which would be really cool. But yeah, that course is absolutely beautiful. If you are thinking about playing it or haven't played it yet and want to, like, definitely go ahead and do that, especially before students get back, because the discount rate is stupid. And if you're a student and you aren't playing that, what are you doing?
Would the Valley host the U.S. Open?
I wouldn't say that. I'm not an authority on that, but people in our life who like golf, like our friend Justin Berger, says like it could, and he's not the only one. Like Twitter, like the people on TikTok and things like that say like it's hard.
If JB, your local, reporter at Asheville, W. Los, if he's saying that, I'm all in. That's all I needed to hear.
This is the golf. This is the guy.
Right, that's my boy.
He's describing specific holes of the Masters to me off the top of his head. Like, yeah, I'm gonna take his opinion for it for sure.
Yeah, I don't. That's, everyone's got their own interests. I hope I break 100 at Wilmette. That'd be fun. Pacers play tomorrow. Game 3.
Yes, sir.
Big. Glad that wasn't
massive
today.
No, they play Thursday, don't they?
No, it's tomorrow.
Is it?
No, Stanley Cup's on Thursday. They give way too many off days in the finals these days. I remember it was literally like, you start the first 2 games, it's game 1 off day, game 2, 2 days for travel, game 3 off day, game 4 2 days for travel, game 5, 2 days for travel, game 6, 2 days for travel, game 7. That's how it used to be. And, it's gotten soft. It's all about media deals, and we're losing the side of sport. With money comes losing a pieces of the sport, and that happens at all levels, not just the amateur level, but also the professional level. That all started because of the TV deal with the finals on ESPN. That's all. That's the only reason why that is. And, it is what it is. We just got to suck it up. And as fans, we're still going to watch no matter what. So they can kind of do whatever. They got me hooked. So I'm just.
Yeah, what are you going to do? Not watch?
Yeah. What am I? I'm going to protest sports. What would I do? Like, would I just
watch the grass grow?
Yeah, I guess I could fish and golf.
Fishing is good stuff.
But then what would I do in the winter? I don't.
No, then you're just you're chalked.
I would be at the gym so much. It'd be scary. He'd be concerned for me.
Appreciate you guys for hanging out with us. This is Indiana Hoosiers Live 33. College sports indeed does look a little different. You can follow us. First of all, please like, share, comment, subscribe to Indiana at the Voice of College Football on YouTube. Follow us on Twitter and Instagram at Indiana VOCFB. You can follow me at Alec Keiser. You can follow Brad at Bradley_Loomis8. Yeah, big things are happening in Indiana football. Their staff isn't slowing down anytime soon, and we'll be here every week to talk about it.
Peace, guys. Go Hoosiers.
Go Hoosiers.